What's up nerds, my name is Abdul Nafi, and in this video we're going to be learning how to make this amazing realistic street scene inside of Unreal Engine 5. We're going to be doing everything from scratch, including creating the road, creating the sidewalk, and then we're going to be adding the trees, we're going to be adding the cars, the buildings, and everything. We're going to be doing it by ourselves in Unreal Engine 5. You don't need any sort of experience in any other software. However, some experience with Blender might be helpful. Apart from that, you just need to know the very basics of Unreal Engine 5, like moving, rotating, scaling objects and stuff like that, right? Apart from that, you don't need anything else. I will guide you along the process, and we will first import the models, we will texture them, we will light the whole scene, we will animate the camera by ourselves, and finally we will render it. So what are you waiting for? I'm looking forward to seeing you in class, and I really hope you learn a lot from this. Alright, so now we're going to be making this scene right here. So we're going to be building everything from scratch, and then we're going to be making this animation. So you're going to see that the animation actually has some camera shake to it, and it actually looks as if a person is filming. And yeah, we're going to be making everything from scratch. So, and by the way, this tutorial is extremely easy. Even if you're an absolute beginner in Unreal Engine 5, you don't need to have any sorts of skills. And I think having some experience with Blender is going to be useful. However, it's not necessary, because we are going to be importing some models which work better if you import them through Blender. Like if you import the models first in Blender and then you import them to Unreal Engine 5, but you can do it directly if you want as well. So yeah, it's as simple as that. Right, so let's go ahead and start with the tutorial. So firstly, you're gonna have to create a new Unreal Engine project. Now I'm not gonna be creating a new project, because I'm just gonna be creating a new level in this project, because I already have all the add-ons and all the texture packs which we're gonna need in this course. So but I'm gonna be showing you how to download them either way, so don't worry about that. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to Unreal Engine 5 and just start a new blank game project. Or if you have a project already open, then you can just use that as well, right? So once you have a project opened, you can just go to File, you can go to New Level, and then New Level, just click Empty Level. You can start with an open world level as well, but I prefer to start from scratch because I prefer to do the lighting myself, right? You're going to see that right now we don't have anything in our scene, and so that's why our scene is black. And so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be clicking window right here, and let's go to the environment light mixer. And this is a tool which we can use to sort of add lighting in our scene. So I'm just going to be setting a very basic lighting, lighting setup, and we are going to be tweaking this later on. But for now, we're just going to create a skylight, atmospheric light, sky atmosphere, volumetric cloud, and height fog. So now you're going to see that we have some clouds, we have a sun. I don't know where the sun is. I think it's somewhere there. You can move the sun as well by simply selecting the direction light and then moving it. So I'm just going to be moving it like that. And so yeah, you're going to see there's the sun. Anyway, so I'm going to undo that, Control Z. All right, so let's press Control S and let's save this level as Street View U. U is for Udemy. And then press Save All as well. But since we don't have any assets, we don't really need to do that. Right, so let's begin with creating the floor. So for the floor, for the ground, not the floor, we're going to have to go to the landscape mode. So we are in selection mode currently. Let's go to the landscape mode. And then we're going to be creating a basic landscape. We don't need to change anything from this. Just press create and it's going to create us a very basic landscape. We don't need to do any sculpting either. Right, so I'm just going to press save all just because I have a very bad habit of saving everything every minute. Anyway, so now you're going to see that we are in this world. And also, by the way, if you don't know how I'm moving, I'm simply clicking right click on my mouse and then I'm moving forward and backward using WASD keys, just like you would move in a game, right? So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to be firstly adding a texture on top of this landscape, because right now it doesn't have any texture, right? So I'm just going to go to add. Let's go to add Quixel content. And this is basically how you can access the Quixel Bridge app, which you can use to import Quixel Megascans assets. If that didn't make any sense and you're an absolute beginner, then that's perfectly fine, because I'm going to be guiding you through the whole process of doing that. You don't need to worry about anything. So once this app opens, you're going to see that right now we have a lot of assets in the Quixel app. Well, I mean, it says no assets here, so I'm just going to click that and hopefully the assets should come up. Yeah, you're going to see that we have a lot of these assets and it is asking me to log in. So I'm just going to do that. So I will see you when I have logged in. All right, so I just went ahead and logged in, and now what we're going to be doing is that we're going to click this thing right here, this home icon, and then we're going to go to surfaces, and now we can just click asphalt. Now it's going to open up all the asphalt materials that it has, and now you can just go through all these and just choose one which looks the best in your opinion. I think this looks really nice. It has a lot of cracks and stuff like that. Well, let's try some other ones as well. I think this is really good as well. And if you're going for a very dark sort of scene, then you can go with something like this as well. However, I'm going for a clean street, so I'm gonna go with, how about this? Yeah, I think that works. That is good there. So what I'm gonna do is that you can just go ahead and click medium quality or high quality, and then just press download right here. Now I'm gonna download the medium quality. I already do have it downloaded. So once the download has been completed, you can just go ahead and click the add button. If you click it once, you're gonna see that it's gonna come up in your in your content browser. But if it doesn't, just click it twice, and then it's gonna definitely come up. So the way you apply materials to a landscape is simply by selecting the landscape, going down to in the details panel, go down to the landscape material and click and just drag this material on top of it. Now you're going to see that our material has been successfully applied. Perfect. So you're going to see that it looks really realistic when we go close up. However, if we zoom out, you're going to see that it looks very repeated. But that's not something we need to worry about, because we're going to be looking at the scene from a very close up view. So yeah. And now what I'm going to do is that let me go ahead and start creating the curb and the footpath, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be searching for curb, not curb, curb. And so I'm going to go down. Now this is something which requires a lot of creativity, and I would definitely recommend you to use a reference. And what I'd like to do for references of these sort of scenes is I actually like to go to Google Maps. And when I go to Google Maps, you can see that we can just go anywhere we want. So let's go to, I don't know, let's go to New York. Let's go to New York, because why not? So let's go there. And okay, so let's find a small city. So how about we go to Maplewood, just something like that. So we're ideally looking for some residential area. So let me search residential area, and I think it's gonna show me some. Okay, never mind, it just shows me the whole city. Anyway, so I think something like this might be good. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna be clicking anywhere. So once we do that, and now we're gonna go down to street view, and so we can just click anywhere, and we can go inside the street view and actually look at real scenes, real world buildings and real world roads inside of in the world, right? So you can just use these as references. So you're going to see that this is an actual road, and the footpath, you can look at how the curb and the footpath looks. So you can just get inspiration from here. The one which I used for my my, what do you call it, the scene which I made was Howard University, and I'm not exactly sure where it was, but it was somewhere here. Anyway, so yeah, I think something like this is a good reference. However, you can just go ahead and choose anything you want, right? So just get a reference, and you can also click ahead to go ahead, and you can just sort of explore the city, and then you can just find a reference. And I think this is a really good tool for you, which I recently found out about. So yeah, you can just use these as references, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back. Also, another tip which I would like to give you guys is you can also use Pinterest. Just go to Pinterest and just search for, I don't know, street. And then you can just look at these random references. For example, this is really nice. However, the reason why I prefer Google Street View is because you can zoom in, you can just look at everything, and you can also look at the other angles as well, because one picture just gives you one angle, right? So I generally prefer Google Street View. So we're just going to go back to Metascan's bridge, Unreal Bridge, my bad. So I'm going to be selecting, I think this should be a nice footpath, concrete median. Let's just download this, or you can also download this as well if that's what you want. I think this is good. However, actually I'm going to go with this because in the previous scene I went with this, so this time I want to try something else. Let's go with this. And now I'm going to be dragging this in my scene, and you're going to see that it is absolutely massive. So I'm going to have to go back. Yeah, so I think it looks really nice. I'm not going to be scaling anything right now because the scale of this object is correct. So I'm just going to be moving away. And now we can just go ahead and start duplicating this. So just duplicate it like that, and just make sure that that the seam is not visible. Yeah, so right now the seam, it's pretty seamless. It looks pretty good. And so we can just continue moving this, right? So I'm just going to be, let's make one more, and let's make one more behind this. And I think we're good for now. We can extend this later on, but I think for now we're good. Although another option which you have is you can create like Yeah, you can create multiple streets. So basically, it's an intersection, right? So basically, there's one street right here, and there's another street which is going inside this, right? So let's do that. So the way you do that is by simply either you can just download this full asset pack, asset kit, which you can in which you get these curved path as well. However, I'm not going to use them. I'm just simply going to be duplicating these, and the edges are not that visible either, so I'm not going to bother with that. Let's just place it right there. Something like that should be good. And let me extend it right there as well. So I'm going to be moving it away. I'm going to be increasing my camera speed a little bit so that I can move faster. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be, I'm going to be selecting all of these. Let's move them there. So I think that big of a street should be good. Something like that I think is a good street width. However, we can change this later on. Right now I'm just eyeballing things. Later we will make sure that we don't, we will make sure that we make it look good. Right, so I think the cracks on the floor are a little too small compared to the road, compared to the footpath. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be actually scaling this texture up. So for that, I'm going to be selecting the landscape. Let's go down to this landscape material. Let's double click this right here. Once this material is opened, you're going to see that we have the styling offset option. So I'm going to be setting this value to something low, like, I don't know, 0.4 and 0.4 as well. So basically, the lower you set this value, the larger your texture is going to be on your object, because it's going to be scaling, it's going to be tiling less times, right? So obviously a larger texture is going to tile less times. I think something a little more should be better. So how about 0.2 and 0.2? Yeah, I think that is a lot better. That is a ton better. So right now you're going to see that the transition between the median and this road is not really good, right? We are going to fix that later on using decals. We're going to be blending them together and they're going to look really nice. So just don't worry about that right now. And we can also go ahead and get a curve now. So how about this one? I used this in my previous render. This looks really nice. However, this time I want to try something else. So I want something which is a little more clean. I think this should be good. So I'm just going to download this. Let's wait for it to download. And while that is happening, we are going to try other ones as well. Actually, I think I like this one. I like this one a lot. So let me just try adding this. Hopefully we're going to like this. And so I'm just going to be, if by the way you want to load the preview of a mesh, you're just going to drag it onto your scene and then you're going to place it back, and then it's going to just load up the preview. And so that's a quick tip for you guys. That's something I do all the time. And yeah, I think this looks really nice. I think the colors blend in pretty well. Let's place this something like that. Yeah, and I think the bottom part blends in very well with the road as well. So I think I'm going to go with this. Yeah, absolutely perfect. It looks very realistic, doesn't it? So I'm just going to delete this thing right here, and I'm going to be selecting all of them. So just select the first one, press shift and select the last one. And then we're going to be placing all of them together. Something like that. Let me reduce my camera speed. So I'm just going to be moving this down a little bit, something like that. And then let's move it in, something like that. And that should look pretty good. Now we're going to be selecting individual assets and we're going to be moving them apart. And so for this, I can turn on the snapping in my movement option, the movement snapping, so that I can snap them correctly, so that I can move them properly. And I'm going to be placing this right there. Perfect. So I think this looks very realistic. I think it looks very good. And that's the magic of Unreal Engine 5 and especially the Megascans asset library, because you don't really need to do that much work, to be honest. Everything is pretty much done for you. You just have to drag assets and just build out the whole thing. It feels like a game, to be honest. Yeah, it's not, it doesn't feel like work, to be honest. Like other softwares, for example, Blender feels like work sometimes. However, Unreal Engine 5 just feels like playing a game. If you remember those games which you used to play, I used to play them earlier. I think it was called The Sims. Yeah, it just literally feels like The Sims. We used to build houses in that. That was my favorite game at one point, to be honest. But then eventually I just got bored of it. So, okay, enough Sims rant. I'm going to be moving this back. And I'm going to be moving that as well. And so at this point, you just need to sort of duplicate things. And this does get a little repetitive and a little boring sometimes. However, I would recommend you to just put on a good podcast or some music and then just get this done, because the real fun part is after this. That's good. And I'm just going to be duplicating it like that and just keep moving. So the good thing is that we only need to do this once. We are going to be duplicating these assets to the other side, so we don't really need to do that. Oops, my bad. Press Alt, by the way. Hold Alt on your keyboard to duplicate assets, just in case you didn't know that. Right, so I think now we're pretty much done with this. Just one more. Perfect. I'm going to be selecting all of them. All of these. Let's press Alt on my keyboard, and then I'm going to be moving them right there. And so let me increase my camera speed. And so I'm just going to be moving ahead. Yeah, that's the right position. I'm going to be selecting this and both of them and move them back just like that. Actually, a little ahead, something like that should do the trick. Now we're going to be selecting all these. And then we're going to be duplicating them to the other side as well. Now, if you were to make a very close-up shot of these sidewalks, then I would recommend you to actually add some variation to them. Because right now what we're doing is that essentially we're just copying the same asset over and over again. However, you have 4 different variations of this asset, right? So you can just go ahead and add different ones. That is going to take more effort. However, if you are going for a more close-up shot, then I would recommend that. Right now, since we're doing like a very wide shot, these aren't going to be, the difference isn't going to be noticeable at all. Okay, so I think we're going to have to turn off snapping, or will we? Let me move this back. Yeah, I think that's perfect. All right, so we're essentially done. Actually, we're not, because this is intersecting with that. So I'm going to be turning off the snapping, and let's move this slightly ahead. Something like that should be good. Perfect. So one thing which I'm going to do is that I'm going to be moving these footpaths a little down. Select all of them. Actually, I think I should select all the footpaths. Those ones as well. Just like that. And let's move them a tad bit down just so that the curb is slightly above them. It's slightly higher in height. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. Perfect. So our street is essentially, the basic layout of our street is essentially done. One thing which you might be noticing right now is the fact that the shadows are very dark right now. And I think that is bothering me a lot. To fix that, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be clicking the skylight and we're going to be going down to real-time capture and make sure that this is turned on, right? So it didn't really make that much of a difference. However, if I just go close up, you're going to see that in the close-up scenes, it did make a slight bit of a difference. It just makes your scene look a little more realistic. And also, if it's static or stationary, make sure to make it movable, because that's going to add to the realism of your scene as well. All right, so now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be adding, let's actually go back to our scene. Let's actually go back to our reference, and then let's see what we have to add next. All right, so if I just open the reference right here, so I think the next thing which we need to do is we should add the buildings. So let's go ahead and add the buildings. And again, for the buildings, we're going to be using the Megascans assets library as well. So I'm just going to be searching for buildings. You can either do that, or you could just go to the collections tab, and then go to environment tab, this environment option, and then just click urban. And in here you have a lot of these building options, so you can just build out buildings using these, right? So I think the one which I'm going to use is, let's actually use this one. I think this looks really realistic and really good. So let's go ahead and first download the ground floor kit. So I'm just going to be downloading the ground floor kit right here. So you basically get all the assets which you need in making the ground floor of this building. And then you can also download individual assets. However, I would recommend you to first download the ground floor kit, then the first floor kit, then the second floor and stuff like that, right? Or you can just duplicate them. That's a choice you have as well. But we're going to be starting with the ground floor kit. So I'm just going to be adding the assets in. Make sure to download them first. So I'm going to be clicking the first one and shift clicking the last one so that all of them are selected, and let's just drag them in, something like that. And so what we're going to be doing is that we are going to be, actually let me delete them. So I'm just going to be placing them on the ground like that. Very close to the curb though. Yeah, I think that much of a difference is fine. Right, so you have this corner piece. I think I'm not going to need that, so I'm going to be deleting that. Let's go ahead, and that is something which we're going to be using. And we have this door. We have this second door right here, and we have this thing as well. And we have this small asset as well. I'm just going to be moving it away just for now. Okay, so make sure that the height, the size of the assets, all the assets is the same. Right, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be making this right there. And let's actually bring this one right here, close to this part. Or rather, I think, yeah, this one's for the corner, by the way, I think. So I'm just going to be moving this right there in the corner. Something like that. And I'm just going to be duplicating these. I'm just going to be placing it right here. Make sure that it doesn't look out of place. It looks seamless. Yeah, it does. Right, so I think it's looking pretty good. And then here we're going to be adding a door. Then let's go ahead and add 3 more of these. So I'm just going to be selecting all of them. Alt dragging them like that. And then we can drag this second door. And then we can add this other door as well. It's actually a window, it's not a door. I mean, it's a door and a window, so yeah. Let's actually duplicate this one right now. So we're going to be adding this. Let's add this right here, just so that we can add some more variation. Because right now, the problem that I'm facing right now is that these seams, these lines right here are not looking good. And I don't want that. So I'm just going to be duplicating this right here. So even though it's intersecting with the wall, intersecting with the other walls, it's not really that big of a difference. And I think it's making it look better. So I'm going to be selecting all these. Let's duplicate them like that. And then let's just continue doing this. Now, obviously, if you were to make a very large, what do you call it? A very large city, then you can do that as well. However, in this scene, in this tutorial, I'm trying to make like a very small street. So, because I also want to keep this beginner friendly and short as well. I don't want this tutorial to be 20 hours long. Again, one thing which you might be noticing right now is that a lot of this is actually pretty simple. It's just like playing a game. However, it does need some time, right? You're going to have to put in some time and effort in this. And I think it looks pretty good, right? So you can just go ahead and create your own layout. I would actually recommend you to not copy the layout which I'm using. And then, because I think that's what's going to increase your creativity. Right, so let's download the first floor kit next. And then we're going to be placing the first floor on top of that. But for now, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to have to go closer to this so that we can place it more accurately. Let's select all these. Let's place them right here. Something like that. And I'm going to delete the corner one because I don't really need it. And now you're going to see that we have a ton of windows, which is perfect. Then we have this asset as well, this wall. Let's make sure that it is intersecting. Perfect. And so I'm going to be duplicating it. I'm actually going to be moving this to the end first. And so we're going to start building it from there. Something like that. I think this one is the corner one. Yeah. So I'm going to be placing this in the corner. Let's place this right here. And then we can just copy and paste. Right, so in this, it's pretty seamless. So I can just duplicate these, something like that. And so right now you're going to see that our outliner is becoming very messy and very unorganized. So we're going to have to work on that in just a bit. But right now I'm just going to make some work. Let me just make a few buildings, and then we're going to be working on the organization of the scene. And so I think something like that should look good. Let's actually copy some of these. Let's place them randomly, because I think it just makes the building look a little more realistic. Also, one thing which you might be noticing right now is that if I go farther from the building actually becomes of lower quality, which is not something I want. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be using a command to make this make this of the highest quality no matter how far we go. So I'm just going to go down to the console command. I'm going to press r dot force LOD, and you're going to see this r dot force LOD. I'm going to press space and then 0. Now it's going to force the highest quality LOD at all times. So even if I go farther, you're going to see that it's not going to use the lower quality version. Now this is going to be applied to all the buildings, all the assets in our scene. So just be aware that this will take some more performance, and if you have a very slow computer, then I would recommend you to actually turn this off while you're editing, and when you're rendering, then just turn it on just for the render, and then you can just render it out. So just duplicate them right there, and one more time. Something like that is looking pretty decent. And the last, let me just duplicate this, and one more time. Perfect. Now you could obviously continue this on the other side as well. You could continue this building from here. However, I'm not going to do that because we're only going to be looking at this street from basically this point right here, this point of view, and we're going to move ahead a little bit. But yeah, you're going to see that we're not going to go on the other side. So I'm not going to be building that out, but it's just basically just copying and pasting and stuff like that. One more thing which you're going to be noticing is that these windows are actually transparent. They're see-through, and that is not something which we want. So I'm going to be we're going to be fixing them later on, but we're just going to essentially create a large cube which is going to be black or very dark color, and then we're going to be placing it behind the wall, so it's just going to cover everything. So that's the way we're going to do it. And so you have it now. You have a choice. You can either just copy all these buildings and place them to the other side, right? You can just duplicate them, or you can get a new collection, and then you can sort of use that different collection, right? But I'm just going to be duplicating this one. So actually, let me just first build out the second floor, and then we're going to be doing the roof after that, and then we can just go ahead and just duplicate this. So let me just place this right here. And then let's move it ahead slightly. Something like that. Make sure that it's properly placed. It is not. I'm going to have to move it slightly ahead. Something like that should be good. And now it's just a matter of moving things around and just placing them in such a way that it looks good. And that's essentially all of, pretty much all of Unreal Engine 5. If I'm being honest. Right, I'm gonna be moving this window farther away, something like that. And yeah, so I would want to continue these lines up. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna be selecting both of them. Let's move it ahead, right where the windows are, and make sure that these lines actually line up, because that's gonna add to the realism. And we can also just copy these from the lower floor, and then you can just duplicate them up, because they're essentially the same thing. It's really not anything different. Okay, well, it is different. So I'm just gonna be making them again. Let's move it a little towards this side. Yeah, so basically they have this part right here, this thing which is not present in the first floor, so I'm not gonna do that. But I will make sure that I continue these lines. So yeah. There's that. And so this is going to be the last one. We're just going to duplicate it like this. And actually, let me delete this and just add another one of these. Perfect. So our 3 floor, actually, they're not complete. Never mind. And we can just go ahead and add more windows, because why not? Really, I think that's just faster. So I'm just going to do that. And then we can just add a few. Press Alt. Add one of these assets at the end to complete it. Right, so I think our building is looking pretty decent. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be getting the modular roof kit. So let's go ahead and add that. And I'm going to be adding all of these. However, we're just going to need, I think, 1 or 2 assets from these, from this whole kit. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be deleting this one right here. I'm going to be deleting this one. And so I think the only two which we're going to need is that one and this one. We're not going to need this either. Perfect. So what we can do is that we can bring this right here. And let's make sure that it is aligned properly, because this is what's going to make our scene either look realistic or very unrealistic. Something like that. Let's move this ahead as well. Like that. And let's move it so that it's touching the other one. All right, perfect. So I'm going to be selecting both of these and then moving them ahead, duplicating them and then moving them ahead. So something like that. And then I think at the end, I just need one more. So I'm just going to be copying that. Perfect. So one of our buildings is complete. Now you can obviously go ahead and create the whole building from all sides. However, also be sure to save this, because it would be a pity if Unreal Engine crashes right now and we don't get to save our work. Anyway, so alright guys, thanks a lot for watching the preview of this course. Now I really hope you're enjoying this course so far, and if you want to watch the rest of this course, it is on Udemy. It is paid, unfortunately. However, you can find a really good discount if you go to the link in the description. Now unfortunately, YouTube does not really pay that much, and making these videos takes a lot of effort and time, so I do have to make these videos paid for now. But yeah, hopefully in the future I will consider making free videos as well. Yeah, thanks a lot for watching guys, and if you go to the link in the description, you will be supporting this channel as well. See ya.